Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. The last year and a half was rough for Star Wars fans. We saw a film about Han Solo fail. We were attacked as being bigots for having a good taste in movies. The Resistance was meh, although in all fairness I have to watch the entire season first. But ever since the mouse has picked up the last Infinity Stone, Fox 20th Century, it's now attempting to release a streaming service, and that means it's releasing a lot of stuff for its most prized franchise, Star Wars. So since Star Wars Celebration, we got a new teaser trailer for Episode 9, Poe and Finn are finally back, Rey's doing epic backflips, and Kylo is pile driving people, and Lando looks snazzy as usual. We also have a Star Wars game that is story-based and single-player, and about one of the surviving Jedi from Order 66. It's made by EA, but it seems like EA is promising us that it won't be a very EA game, which I find hilarious. Even EA hates EA. Then, of course, Season 7 of The Clone Wars is coming out, and it's now confirmed by me, Alan, who did not work on the project in any way, that Ahsoka and Rex will finally get it on, creating Rey. Because Rex plus yay equals Rey. That's not a real theory, but, well, now that it's on the internet, let's see where it goes. With all of this potentially awesome stuff going on, it's pretty easy for the TV show The Mandalorian to go a bit unnoticed. But let's think about this. We're getting a live-action Star Wars TV show, and it's not the 90s. So it's not going to look cheesy like that other show about space explorers who don't really fight that good. And more importantly, it's going to be directed by Jon Favreau. You know, the man who invented the modern superhero movie and helped Iron Man, a second-class superhero, become more popular than the original billionaire superhero Batman. Plus, Pedro Pascal, that cocky narc prince, is going to be playing the main character. And on top of that, they're calling this new TV show Gritty. Sure, it's going to be Disney gritty, so probably that doesn't mean addicted in the womb death stick babies or Ewok poaching, but the last time Disney put Star Wars and gritty together, we got Rogue One, which was pretty awesome, and then there was those scenes in Corellia, which was also pretty awesome. Anyway, I'm really excited about a lot of the new things that are going to be happening to Star Wars, but I'm really excited about The Mandalorian. And in celebration of my excitement, let's take a look at the best part of Mandalorian culture, and that's their armor. Well, first of all, Mandalorians are not really a race, scientifically speaking. Although most of the best Mandalorians are humans because humans are better than dirty aliens. But the Mandalorians were unified by their culture and warrior tradition. And what maintained a sense of unity for all the Mandalorians was their armor. More than just a piece of cool-looking protective gear, the Mandalorian armor was the most treasured piece of equipment a Mandalorian could have. Sometimes these suits of armor were passed down for many generations, and that was not only because they were incredibly important, but because they were also ridiculously expensive. And that's because Mandalorian armor is amongst the best and most protective armor you can get in the galaxy. There are a few other armors that kind of come close, like Katarn armor, which was influenced by Mandalorian armor, and Orbalisk armor, which is made up of parasites that inject poison in you. But if credits and access is no issue, then you would generally go for Mandalorian armor because it was the best. But let's take a look at the Mandalorian armor with a more critical eye. In many ways, Mandalorian armor influenced all Star Wars armor designs from Old Republic troopers to clone troopers. But just how functional was this armor? Would modern-day warriors take a look at this gear and just laugh, or would they actually consider throwing on some Bes'kar? And let's start with Bes'kar, or Mandalorian iron, which is what a true suit of Mandalorian armor would be made out of, not that cheap composite crap that the Fets wore. Bes'kar was an incredibly rare metal ore that could only be found on the Mandalorian homeworld and its moon Concordia. Unprocessed Mandalorian iron is notoriously difficult to work with, and only Mandalorian ironsmith knew how to correctly create a Mandalorian metal alloy that could be worked into protective gear. Now, unlike vibranium or cortosis, Mandalorian iron didn't have any special energy manipulating properties. Mandalorian iron was more like adamantium, as in it's incredibly tough and durable and probably one of the most dense materials in the galaxy. It could stop a lightsaber and multiple blaster rounds. So would our modern warriors consider picking up Mandalorian armor? Well, most modern body armor is made out of aramid fiber. These are incredibly tough and flame-resistant synthetic fibers. One of the most commonly known aramid fibers is the DuPont branded Kevlar. And for those of you who ride, you might have heard of Kovac, another aramid fiber. Aramid fibers are woven into thick layers and work to catch incoming rounds. Because fibers are flexible, they're able to absorb the energy and spread out. While many of these fibers will break, most of them will hold and hopefully catch the round. What makes Kevlar awesome, especially for individuals who have to wear protection every day, is how light the material is. It actually has 5 times the tensile strength of steel. Tensile strength is a material's resistance to breaking under tension. So that means Kevlar armor can weigh 5 times lighter than steel armor of the same weight. Mandalorian iron is probably closer in weight to steel rather than Kevlar, but it does have very good bullet resistance properties. While Kevlar is useful against slower and less energetic rounds, it doesn't really do much against higher powered rounds and, more importantly, armor-piercing rounds. Most regular ammunition actually deforms on impact. That's because their tips are made out of softer materials like copper, or in the older days, lead. These softer metals will actually prevent erosion within a gun barrel, allowing a user to use that weapon for a longer period of time. But an armor-piercing round with a wedge-shaped point rather than a rounded one made up of a stronger material could pierce the weave in Kevlar, bypassing the armor's ability to catch the bullet and stop all of its energy. This is where hard armor actually comes into play. On the modern battlefield, you're more likely to encounter rifle caliber rounds. Soldiers will wear plate carriers with steel or ceramic plates that are designed to stop these more dangerous rounds instead of catching the bullets and stretching. Hard armor made out of ceramics were brittle and would shatter when hit, absorbing some of the energy and, more importantly, blunting the round. These ceramic plates were usually interwoven with aramid fibers, so when the ceramic plate shatters, the aramid fibers can catch the fragments of the bullet. Steel armor, on the other hand, is more direct in its approach and has been used on the battlefield since the invention of early gunpowder weapons. This was essentially plate armor designed to stop melee weapons and arrows that just happened to be able to stop early gunpowder rounds. But as firearms quickly began advancing, armor would disappear from the battlefield, mostly because of their weight. A suit of metal armor thick enough to stop modern bullets would be a suit of armor that was too heavy for a soldier to comfortably move around in. Now, Mandalorian iron is supposed to be much stronger than Durasteel, and Durasteel is supposed to be much stronger than any type of steel that we can create here on Earth. We don't really have any real metrics to look at, but we do know that Bes'kar can stop thermal energy rounds from blasters as well as slugs, which are the Star Wars equivalent of bullets. Most likely, Bes'kar has incredibly strong tensile strength, which means it has very good weight to protection ratio, which makes it very good for body armor. But the main problem with Bes'kar as a bullet resistance material is that it wouldn't do much to absorb the energy from the round. Which means even though Bes'kar will stop the penetration from the round, it won't stop all the energy that goes flying into your body, which could cause internal bleeding, bruises, and even damage to your organs, which could all be very deadly. From what we can tell about Mandalorian armor, though, there does seem to be thick padding underneath the metal, and as far as solving how to create a bullet-resistant armor, I guess creating padding thick enough to protect someone from the force of the bullet is easier than actually trying to stop that bullet. So I can definitely see Bes'kar being incorporated into modern armor if it actually existed. Another interesting thing about Mandalorian armor is that unlike Clone Trooper armor or Stormtrooper armor, it doesn't actually offer complete coverage. Like modern ballistic armor, the plates usually only cover vital organs and arteries on the body. Gaps are created in the armor to allow more movement, comfort, and decrease weight. So if you are going to design a full suit of bulletproof armor, this might not be a bad way to go. But what about the helmet? Why is it that militaries and police organizations rarely field the helmet that fully covers an individual's face? Well, for the same reason why we don't cover our soldiers today in full metal armor. It's just way too heavy. A lot of ballistic helmets today are capable of stopping shrapnel and even pistol rounds, but a helmet that can stop a rifle round would probably be way too heavy or uncomfortable for the human neck to support. Also, the concussive force from a rifle round striking your head would be very deadly. However, because of the properties of Bes'kar, you can potentially create a very thin helmet using this material and still have good protection abilities, and then fill the rest of the helmet in with padding material to prevent concussion. For those of you who have played football or ridden a motorcycle in the last decade or so, concussion-proof helmets are designed with space-age padding that does work quite well from turning your brain into jelly. I mean, you might look ridiculous wearing these giant helmets, but they definitely do work. An adequate amount of padding with a hard Bes'kar shell can definitely save your life. You'll probably get a concussion, but the most important thing is you won't die from a headshot. It should also be noted that the Mandalorian's helmet's T-shaped visor design allows the viewer pretty good peripheral vision while providing maximum protection without the help of sensors or external cameras. Obviously, the eye and mouth slits would be a weak point in the helmet, but in Star Wars with tough materials like transparent steel, even a direct hit there doesn't necessarily mean death. And here on Earth, we actually have some pretty tough transparent materials like bulletproof glass, which can actually stop a rifle round if layered enough times. Better yet, you have something even tougher like transparent aluminum. Add in some cool advanced heads-up display with augmented reality, and you're looking at the soldier of the future. So I think we can conclude that despite having some magical materials like Bes'kar, Mandalorian armor is quite functional and would be quite useful, especially when compared to some more restrictive and plastic-like Stormtrooper armor. Perhaps that's why people love Mandalorian armor so much. They recognize that the armor design is plausible. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, we actually covered a real-life Mandalorian armor suit called the Galactic Project. It's more of a marketing gimmick, and we probably won't be seeing soldiers run around the battlefield in this suit anytime soon, but it is ballistic rated and probably one of the most badass pieces of kit I've ever seen. So there you have it, guys. That's our analysis of the Mandalorian armor and how functional it is. I'd like to hear your opinion, though, down in the comment section below. Did we miss anything? Anything I say seem wrong? Let us know. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification button so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.